Hey everybody, Jim everyone, just wait for a few people to come in. Let me know if you can hear me. First time using StreamYard. Jerry gave me a very brief run through earlier. I'm not sure how much of that I took in, so not live, so okay, but you can hear me, and there we go. Seems like I'm live on YouTube. Let me just mute this tab. There we go. That's better. Okay, nice, cool. So let's get into it. Obviously, I've picked a day to start my YouTube streaming career. Yeah, this is probably going to go down in the history. Markets have just opened like 3 minutes ago. So I'm almost afraid to look at what's happening there. But this is what we put in the newsletter today. And basically what we've got is, we've got a roundup here, haven't we? I mean, this is from last week. Jump actively unwinding the crypto holdings. Interested to know if they're a forced seller, because if they are, then what's going to happen is price is going to want to snap back. We're going to have things way out of equilibrium. If Jump is facing some kind of legal difficulties, we know that Canav was recently probably forced to resign. So there could be some big shit happening there, which is forcing them to unwind their spot holdings. They've sold a massive amount of ETH already. I looked on Arkham earlier at their ETH wallets. Those are almost all to cash now. The results of that were obvious when we looked at the futures opening at about 3 o'clock in the morning, my time this morning. Just massive volume, massive sell-off on ETH. Where's my ETH chart? There it is. Yeah, I mean, I drew this squiggle on Friday, I think. Yeah, on Friday. And I thought this might take some time to play out. So this was basically a fractal sort of just for the lols kind of ETH worst case scenario sort of chart, max pain scenario. Basically what I did was I just noticed that this top over here looks pretty similar, head and shoulders, pretty ugly head and shoulders, to this smaller version over here, which is also head and shoulders. With a run up over here, obviously, same deal there. It's a fractal. Just repeated this. I did the same with the RSI. That's gone now. But yeah, I mean, this was squiggled for into March, but we're speed running it. We're down here already. So maybe this runs through the system faster. If we've got forced seller in the market, the scale of Jump, then that's a real possibility. So yeah, just to get back to this VIX chart, it's good to get some perspective with the VIX, because this gigantic US sell-off that we're in the middle of, all this geopolitical tension with Israel and Iran, World War III, etc. All of this is reflected in the VIX. When the VIX, as it is now, like there's 30 on the VIX. The VIX has really 3 volatility regimes. You've got your investable regime, where stonks are up only. That's your Goldilocks. Anything from 10 up to about 20, close to like maybe 15, 20 on the VIX is your investable bucket. That's where you get nice uptrends. You can buy the dip. Shit goes up only. You can buy the dip with confidence. The stock market's a money printer. Above 20, you get into the chop bucket. That's all this shit over here. Basically, your last bear market for Bitcoin and everything else. You're in the chop bucket. It's not a great place to be. For stocks, also not a great place to be. When you get above 30, that's when you're in the fuck bucket. That's when things are a real mess. TradFi does not want to own risk assets in that bucket. They're piling into safe havens, mostly to cash, to bonds, depending on where you are in the cycle. Yeah, basically it's a risk asset fire sale, and that's what we're seeing. It's exactly what we're seeing now. And the VIX spiked to beyond 60, which is a place it's not been to since the COVID crash, 2.5 years, 4.5 years ago. Misspoke there. Before that, the beginning of the 2018 bear market. So these mark massive bottoms on the Bitcoin charts. If you wind it back to when the VIX in 2015 hit 50, it was almost a double bottom. That was, Bitcoin is at like $190. That was an absolutely beautiful place to buy Bitcoin. From there, we chopped along the way, but it was basically a parabolic curve to the 20K top in 2017. $190, 20K. The 2018 dump, not as good of a place to buy. Obviously, the beginning of the 2018-2019 bear markets, but also a big local bottom. And then the COVID crash, everyone probably remembers that. That was just a massive apocalyptic day in the markets. Also, I mean, Bitcoin was going to naught, like the BitMEX liquidation engine didn't work properly. Arthur Hayes had to control alt-delete that motherfucker, otherwise we would have gone to naught. Bitcoin tanked from like 9K down to 3 something in the space of 24 hours. It was pretty apocalyptic. But the long and the short of it was that it was the bottom. So these two were awesome places to buy. This one less so, but you got a big bounce from like 7K all the way up to 12, like it almost a 2x. So I guess the point I'm trying to make is we're still fairly early. This is the first big spike. Friday we had a spike, but this is the first big spike. These things can take like a week to play out. You don't really know. It's very hard to bottom ticket. I did open longs this morning. Probably not the best idea. I closed them before the stream because I don't want to have exposure while I'm trying to stream and the US markets are opening. I think things are probably pretty chaotic right now. But the long and the short of it is this is a good place. These were good places to buy. This less so, but 2x bounce almost. So yeah, I don't know. Let's wait and see what happens. This was a cycle top, cycle bottom, pretty much cycle bottom for probably one of the best cycles that we've had. So I guess my advice would be, I mean, look where the RSI is now on the VIX. It's basically higher. It's, yeah, on the 1 day, on the 3 day, it's the same. On the weekly, RSI is insanely high. It's higher than the COVID crash. It's like 90. So basically, wait for this to play out. Wait for Bitcoin to make a bottom, and let's have a look at Bitcoin. And wait for that bottom to be confirmed on a higher time frame. Looks like we're getting a bounce here. Not a big one, still at 51, but the 4-hour candle's trying to make a bit of a wick there. It's green. So, I mean, look how oversold we are. We're massively oversold on the 4-hour, 15 RSI. That hasn't been seen in a while. If I switch to daily, also massively oversold. Sub 30, which is, the place where bottoms tend to be made. Although this one went quite low. This 25K. Yeah, so basically wait for a bottom to be carved out and wait for confirmation is what I would suggest. Yeah, I have a slightly low squiggle I used to bully the Baron with. Yeah, the Baron's getting some stick from Meatfish in particular. Is the Baron still long? What was it? Miggles that he was that he had a big position in. GM guys, GM Hypnotoad. Grayscale transferred 20,416 ETH to Coinbase Prime. That doesn't sound like fun. Yeah, I mean, ETH sold off harder than everything else so far. What guys are concerned about now is Jump's Solana wallets, which are fully loaded with like, what, 2 million SOL or something ridiculous, none of which have been sold yet, as last time I checked. So yeah, that's not awesome. I mean, everybody kind of needs to be in capital preservation mode at this point, at least until this whole situation shakes out. All this World War III business runs through the wash, hopefully not with nuclear weapons. I'm in Zimbabwe. So Zimbabwe is already broken. You can't nuke us down here. Nobody's interested in us, so that's a good thing. Yeah, I dumped my SOL at a loss because of them. Probably sold the bottom, but can always buy back. Yeah, I had a long that I wanted to hold because my liquidation was quite low, but I just don't want to be exposed to this initial shit show if they start dumping. I think Jump are not, I mean, maybe they're facing legal troubles, but they're also not morons. Let's have a look at the SOL chart. SOL has basically dumped from 192 down to 111 in the space of like a week. What is that, 8 days, something like that? I mean, that's like a 45% or something dump. And it's very close to this big volume node here, so it's more or less on support. Like down here around 100 there's pretty decent support. I struggle to think that they would just want to dump into that already gigantic sell-off. It's pretty oversold here on the daily, but at the same time, if everyone's aware of their wallets that are now unlocked, then nobody's going to want to buy. So I don't know. We're going to have to wait and see what happens. We're going to have to wait for it to shake out. Yeah. What else we got here? The Nikkei, massive dump. I think this is the biggest stock market dump, or the biggest Nikkei dump since 1987, I heard somewhere. From 42K down to 30 in the space of, I don't know, what is this, 2 weeks or so. Just a little bounce here into the point of control and then straight down again. So this is basically the unwinding of this carry trade, isn't it? Which seems potentially not that significant. But the problem with carry trades is that they work, and the more they work, the more everyone piles in. There's a good thread here on it. And when they unwind big style, because it's just a consensus trade and absolutely everybody has jumped on board. And nobody can imagine it not working anymore. So yeah. So what John Wu is saying is, it seems unintuitive that a small 25 basis point interest rate in Japan would spike all risk assets, including tonight's minus 20% ETH candle. You need to understand. Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure that this thing is really responsible for the ETH sell-off, but I mean, I suppose the giant TradFi sell-off is what kind of cascades into assets like ETH that are far out on the risk curve. So a quick explanation: carry traders borrow at naught rate, invest in something with higher than naught expected returns, borrow yens for nothing, buy an asset outside Japan that yields more than nothing. Yeah, and it just becomes a consensus trade. This thing works as long as your borrow rate remains low, your collateral is worth something, and the thing you bought with your loan makes money. But all of those things tend to be invalidated when you get a giant stock market crash. They all stop working at the same time, which is why you get this massive unwind. Yeah, that's what I'm interested to know, is the selling forced. I mean, I think a lot of it is, I think what's happening in the market is this: the geopolitical tension is one aspect. To see a spike in the VIX that big, somebody's taking this Iran-Israel situation quite seriously. But at the same time, to go back to this VIX chart, you can see how long volatility has been suppressed. I guess the narrative equivalent of this would be all the nonsense in the media saying that Joe Biden's superpower is his age and all this crap, saying, everything's fine, but actually things in the economy are not fine. And the US is recessionary, and risk happens slowly and then all at once, as they say, which is exactly what we're seeing. And you see the same pattern here, where volatility is suppressed. You get this nice downtrend. Everybody gets super confident that, the stock market's up only. And then suddenly everybody realizes at the same time there's a global pandemic. Whatever happened in 2017, all I know, it was my first cycle. The only thing I cared about was crypto. But in TradFi markets, the bull market ended too. Bull markets tend to end with a very low VIX of around 10, 12 in that case, 11 in this case, 9 in this case, which is super low. But yeah, you can only stay in a suppressed volatility regime so long. So yeah, there's the yen chart, USD, JPY, massive spike in the value of the yen. This is obviously the dollar value coming down. Gold volatility even is spiking up at the moment. Gold has been pumping because obviously it's a hedge, it's a safe haven. It works off market risk and geopolitical risk. But when things get extreme, then it starts selling off. We're not really there yet, but we're kind of getting there. So you can see here, this is the COVID crash where gold spiked, the volatility spiked massively along with the VIX, and gold's counterintuitively sold off gigantically. I say gigantically, it was probably like 25%, but everyone was expecting gold to go up. Everyone, well, not everyone, but at the time I was kind of expecting gold to keep running because it was already pumping. But when you have these extreme events, you get a liquidity crisis, and even gold gets sold. You can see it on the chart. It's my old gold trend lines from way back. So here it is here. There was this beautiful uptrend with gold. COVID crash, liquidity crisis, gold dumps from like 1,700 down to 1,450. And this took maybe 2 weeks, 3 weeks to work its way through the system, and then up only resumed into August. Yeah, and gold, I think, is in a secular bull market. This sell-off is probably a similar kind of sell-off, obviously on a much smaller scale, and I kind of think this will resume up only. Give it a week or so, gold's going to keep pumping. Yeah. So, I mean, that's most of what I've got for you today. It's quite a short stream. Everyone's in pain. And this is kind of a cope session, really, isn't it? Does anyone have any charts that they want to look at? I've been doing these on stage, obviously, for the usual guys in Discord. And a lot of it has been chart requests. When I first started, memes were still pumping, and we were doing loads of meme chart requests. I'm not sure if anyone's still long memes. I haven't been spending much time in the pits. I don't really have any small cap meme bags. I've got a couple of lock bags. GM chess. Yeah, Miggles. I mean, I suppose memes could still be insulated to some degree. They sold off before everything else sold off, so let's have a look. Yeah, that does not look healthy. Log charts looks less painful, but purple box completely smashed and invalidated. Downtrend accelerated. back to 1 cent from 12 cents. So like 95%, 93% drawdown or something. I mean, everything's going to reverse at some point. It's just hard to say when that'll be, whether it be today, tomorrow, in a week, in 2 weeks. We just have to wait and find out. GM Manola. Retardio looks fine. Retardio is a safe haven play, is it? Let's have a look. I hope so, because I still have a lock bag of that thing. Retards are too dumb to care about World War III. Let's have a look. Yeah, I mean, could look worse. Some buyback there. 14 cents top. It's only like a bit more, like 60-70% drawdown. So yeah, I'm hoping this bag survives, because I've got one locked up until like November time, I think. I still think it's not necessarily over. Basically, what's going to happen, and this is my hopium thesis, is that the Fed is going to step in, because the Fed will tell you that they have 2 remits: stable employment and inflation down to 2.5%, whatever it is. But that's a 2-legged stool, and it's bullshit. They actually have a 3-legged stool, and the third leg is the stock market. Speaking of which, let's have a look at it. See what's happening. Yeah, the Fed have a job to preserve the, or at least to protect and ameliorate and have a Fed put for the price of the stock markets. Because if you think about it, the stock market is a massive part of the US economy, and also a massive part of the global reserve currency, in terms of being a big liquidity sucking in foreign capital into US dollar denominated assets. And it's a large part of the value offering. Take that as you will, but that's how it's presented, of the US economy. US assets, US stocks are seen as the gold standard internationally. Stable, reliable. Stock market is long periods of up only, whether that's, since 2008, largely due to quantitative easing. And if you measure against M2 money supply, it's not as fantastic as it looks on this chart, for example. That's their remit. They have to protect the stock market. They have to protect their employers' bags, which are deep. The people that matter don't like stonks to go down too far. So yeah, massive dump on the open today. What is that? Like a 5% dump. That's a lot for the S&P. We're kind of close to a reversal zone if you go by RSI. This is the daily chart. You can see reversed here at 31, reversed here. This is a massive drawdown, protracted July 27 July to 26th of October. This is when the VIX was in the chop bucket, and we're experiencing max pain in the magic internet money markets. But even here, this was a local bottom, bounced down again to the same level, reversed at that level. Let me just close Discord. So yeah, I would expect to bounce pretty soon. Let's have a look at the NASDAQ. NASDAQ ultimately has to look worse because it's higher beta and more risky. It's, as a tech index, it's made up of more volatile stuff, more speculative stuff, sells off harder in this kind of event. Way past the purple box. Yeah, I wasn't expecting the VIX to go to 60. I thought maybe we hit 30, 40, but yeah, it was a massive pump on the VIX this morning before the market even opened. So if I zoom in a bit to the 4-hour, yeah, it's not looking good. Let's turn on the volume profile, have a look at that. PBR. This is going to take a while to, it's not going to let me see it because there's too much data. But we're kind of below support here, you know. This was the place where we should have had support. Now we're kind of trapped below it. So we could get a bounce into here and then a move lower. We're already below the 200-day. Basically, this is kind of bear market territory below the 200-day. We're on the 4-hour, so let's change to the right time frame. Okay, the 200-day is still down here at 15K. So, yeah, I mean, if we hold this, then we can, you know, it becomes easier to recover. If you get daily and weekly closes below this level, then you tend to consolidate below it. Basically, everyone's waiting for the Fed to ease, and they have said September, which is, you know, a month out. A lot of bad shit can happen in a month, not just on the nuclear war front, but in the nuclear stonks front. So my, if I had to guess, if I had to bet on it, I would say the Feds, there's some alarms going on after what's happened today. Some urgent phone calls being made from people that matter. And I would, you know, the Fed can ease in many different ways. They might not just run the money printer like they have in the past because they're nervous about reigniting inflation. But there are lots of different ways, which, you know, I'm not really qualified to talk about, where you can juice the economy by the back door. The Treasury General account filled up massively when we had tax season. When that gets emptied out, it creates more liquidity. There are lots of things they can do. And obviously they're nervous about reigniting inflation. If you know, just hand out cash, as was done during COVID, that's when the housing market becomes unaffordable. Household goods become unaffordable for a large section of the population. They're going to try and avoid all of that. So I don't know. We'll have to wait and see what they do. Does anyone have any charts that they want to look at? Otherwise, I'm probably going to keep this quite brief, and I'll do a longer stream tomorrow. Let me just see if there's anything else that I wanted to look at. See what Sol's doing. Quite a big bounce on Sol. Let's look at the hourly. Yeah, it's trying to bounce here. I mean, this massive volume is usually the sign of a bottom. It looks pretty decent. The long I closed would have been in profits here. So, yeah, I mean, this structure here on the RSI looks at least like a short-term bottom. Obviously, massive volume node up here. This could be resistance. Unless you guys have stuff you want to look at, what do you think is likely to play out in the next 2 to 4 months? It just a lot depends on how the Fed responds to what's happening right now. We could see recessionary conditions at least for another month. Then the Fed eases. Is the market going to be forward looking and start responding to that? I think, I don't know, if I had to guess, I would say we actually need that liquidity to come into the market before we start seeing positive results. I would look to people like Lynn Alden to provide better guidance on that than I can provide. I've seen some fairly skeptical commentary from her on Twitter about how quickly this situation will be fixed. We'll have to wait and see. But into the elections, if the Democrats actually want to, I mean, it's hard for me to understand what the hell the Democrats are doing in the States. And it only matters to me because they're the incumbent administration. I'm not politically aligned with anybody in the United States. I'm in Zimbabwe. Politics is a bit of a mess for me. Yeah, it's hard for me to understand what their strategy is. They try to run a dude who can barely string a sentence together, should be in a retirement home, and now they've picked an extremely unpopular candidate to replace him. So what would normally happen is they would try and juice the markets into the election, to make the economy look good and provide, the right backdrop for them to try and win another term. But things are such a mess. And in my opinion, this is such a weak US administration. They've let the rest of, America presents itself, or at least postures itself, as kind of the world police, to use the South Park turn of phrase. But, they've let the world off the leash. And a lot of arguably a lot of these situations have been driven by US policy. The mess in Ukraine, the mess in the Middle East. So it feels like guys have lost control of the plot. So I would like to say the US is going to juice the markets into the election and everything's going to be fine, but we're just going to have to wait and see. I don't know. I literally don't know. A lot of people will tell you the same thing today, that we have to wait and see how this plays out. Yeah, it's definitely a wait and see for me. Okay, guys, thanks for coming. I can't really see how many people are here. That was a nice thing about Discord, where I could see everybody that was in the on the stage stream. But yeah, I'll catch up with you tomorrow. We'll do a better, more professional stream tomorrow. This whole platform's new to me, so apologies if it's been a bit messy. Chat to you soon. Thanks, guys.